Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Modix video. Today we're going over the patch notes for patch 1.07 of Valorant. And just before I get into them, I wanted to say sorry for taking a break from the daily uploads. I just really wanted to take a break so I can come back motivated and keep on releasing content. So we're starting to upload content more regularly. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe with notifications on. But starting us out with this patch notes, they went ahead and said, all right, a full patch notes this time. Killjoy gets her first major update, which should empower more counterplay against her nanoswarm, as well as reduce its damage. Viper, Breach, Sova, and Sage also got some worthy changes. All shotguns got their aim punch and tagging tuned. You can choose to remake a match under certain conditions. Lots of tweaks in the observer tool, and you get some new features that should help keep your identity private in game. This patch is also part of an ongoing follow through on a promise to improve hit registry clarity, with several changes coming to VFX of hit impact markers. So I'm really excited that they're adding the streamer mode. That's what they mean by keep your identity private in your game. I think that's really cool, and I'm kind of scared to see these Killjoy changes. Hopefully they didn't nerf her into oblivion, but normally the devs won't do that, so it should be very interesting. So taking a look at agent updates, we're starting with Sage. Her heal was reduced from 100 over 5 seconds to 60 for 5 seconds. That's like kind of crazy, because now you can't heal somebody to full health again. That's really interesting change that they made. And then self-heal reduced from 100 over 5 seconds to 60 over 10 seconds. So now they're trying to really emphasize you need to be healing your teammates rather than yourself. So when you're selfish, you're going to punish. And then they said, our goal is to reduce the amount of healing done throughout the round. De-incentivize, whatever that word is, Sage from self-healing and make it more expensive to do so. And then the slow orb, the size was reduced by 30%. This should slightly reduce the power of slow orb and increase intentionality. Right now, slow orb unintentionally covers a lot more ground than it should be if aimed properly. And then the barrier orb, so all three abilities are getting nerfed, it looks like. The cost was reduced from 400 to 300. The fortifying barrier wall forms at 400 HP after a 3-second delay. The wall becomes fortified to 800 HP. So if you can go ahead and just spray that thing as quickly as possible, like right when it goes up, then I think that it's going to be really easy to counter Sage now. And then their hope is to increase counterplay on barrier and reduce the strength of the wall during reactive use. So very nice. Now if Sage gets caught off guard, instead of just throwing up that wall, you can just break through it. Now moving on to the Killjoy changes, nanoswarm added a brief windup before damage begins. I don't know how well I feel about that one. DPS reduced from 60 to 40 damage points per second. And then visual effects have been added to make it easier to spot the grenade on the ground. Stealth audio range has been slightly increased, so you should really be paying attention for those signs to see if Killjoy is holding a spot. And the dev comment for this one, Killjoy's nanoswarm has been a terror to play against. It's meant to be a strong stalling and post-plant tool, but we feel it's currently dealing far too much damage and players aren't able to engage in desired counterplay. Now as for the turret, no longer revealed by Sova's recon bolt, that's awesome. More effectively shoots at an enemy's last known location. So again, that's not really a nerf. It's more of a buff in my opinion, because Sova's been such a good counter to Killjoy, and now they completely removed that for the game. So I personally am really happy with the turret changes. I will have to play Killjoy and use her nanoswarm to give you guys my opinion on that. But overall, I don't think that they nerfed her too badly. Now let's move on to Viper. So starting out, we have our toxic screen. Can now be placed during the buy phase of rounds through spawn barriers. That is the best change I think we've had so far. Toxic screen now goes up faster along its full length once it starts to form. So what I think from that is that it's not gonna like when you throw it, the left side goes down and then it goes to the right side, and then when you activate it, it goes in a line. So hopefully that changed. And their dev comment is, this change should allow Viper in many situations to get her wall placed pre-round and then join her team before the barrier drops, or create uncertainty about her location when the round begins. Increasing the speed of the wall rising should reduce the awkward period that occurs after it starts to rise but isn't covering all the angles Viper and her allies would expect. And my one thought process with this is, will the other team be able to see that wall get placed? Because if they can see the wall get placed, then they know what site you're attacking on, and that can sometimes not be ideal. So that will be interesting to see if that's like a future change coming. Maybe we'll see Morello talk about it on one of his next live streams. But yeah, moving on to Decay. Decay on all smoke abilities, it no longer affects allies. So that's actually really big buff, because it used to be where nobody could push through the smoke, and now it's just the other team that can't push through. And this is mainly targeted toward Viper's Pit and should help reduce some of the unintentional collateral damage she can cause to her team, while also opening new strategies for playing around her ult as a team. And then for Viper's Pit, the area of Viper's Pit is now shown on her team's minimap when deployed. That's another great feature. I think that the whole Viper changes were awesome. Those were changes that needed to be made, because as you guys know, before Killjoy came out, I was a Viper main. I used to play Viper a lot, and those were like two of the biggest things that I had a problem with. Not as much like with the Decay, it was more with the Toxic Screens and Viper's Pit, because whenever Toxic Screens came into effect, I kind of had to be the last person to go and push on a site. So it wasn't my favorite thing to do, but luckily they changed that with this one. And now some Breach changes. We've been really guessing that Breach is getting some buffs here, so we'll just have to go ahead and see. So they added a note. These are not all the potential Breach changes we want to do, but as part of our ease in intentionally balanced philosophy, we want to be measured. Stay tuned for more potentially so, depending on how well players play them. Now let's check out these changes. For Flashpoint, all screen flashes now match behavior of other flashes in the game and apply a minimum amount of flash more aggressively. Charges increase from 2 to 3. Dang, that's a lot of flashes. And then reduced wind up time from 0.6 seconds to 0.5 seconds. And their dev notes is, Breach should be a choice pick in offensive entry and breaking utility. While the flash's power was pretty good, too few charges were holding him back on being able to provide his value for his team. Considering he needs teammates to capitalize on his flashes, this should make up for that cost by simply having more of them. And then Rolling Thunder got a change. Detonation delay between blasts decreased from 0.3 to 0.255 seconds. So I think that this makes it so that it's harder to run away. You guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong with that. As for concussion, concuss now descopes players and prevents rescoping. That's going to be really nice to counter that operator, because we've always had the issue of the operator meta. Players are really complaining, and this is sort of a change that's coming, but we have to replace some agents in a team comp and now put in Breach. So I think that's a great change. I'm very interested to see how that affects oppers. And now Sova changes. They updated the physics of Sova's cape so that it should wiggle outside his hitbox less frequently. So this is not going to allow other players to see your location before you want them to. And then polish work on Sova's 1P hands to bring them up to the fidelity bar of the rest of our agents. Don't know what that means. It sounds very technical. So those were the changes with Sova. As for the weapon updates, all shotguns aim punch update. When getting headshot by a shotgun, the aim punch will be lower than all the other weapons. I think this is really cool, because now you're up close. You need to be able to react quicker. And then all shotguns tagging tuned for targets beyond 10 meters. Hitting an enemy past 10 meters will apply a different tagging value to them instead of standard tagging. New tagging. 30% slow for 0.5 seconds on a smooth curve, going back to normal speed. The goal of these changes is to improve the feel of playing against shotguns and to ensure that they don't end up doing odd things. For example, tagging or aim punching people from longer than expected ranges, and then a teammate ends up killing someone who's debuffed, or makes it hard to fight back against a weapon that should be deadly up close but fairly non-threatening outside its effective range. And I know that this is a big problem, and I'm really happy that they added this. The shorty nerf. So the shorty got nerfed, sadly. First fall off range reduced from 9 meters to 7 meters. Updated headshot multiplier from 3 times to 2 times. Now the same as the Judge and the Bucky, so it's not as overpowered as it used to be. Our goal here is to make the shorty users work a little harder for the kills they get by requiring them to be a tad closer to the target. I feel like this is fine, because whenever you're using that shorty, you kind of stay in corners and just kind of catch the opponents off guard. You try to get 1. You can try to get 2, but you will always want to at least get 1. As for the Judge nerf, the price increased from $1,500 to $1,600. The desire here is to see if giving the judge a little hit paired with the other shotgun changes moves the needle when playing against this gun. We'll continue to monitor and make other changes if necessary. The devs have always stated that the judge needs a nerf, and so we're finally seeing that. Now the Vandal got a buff. That's really nice to see, because when we're talking about Vandal or Phantom, many players are taking that Phantom more than the Vandal. But this one, it increased the firing rate from 9.25 to 9.75, so now it's shooting faster, and it increased damage from 39 to 40. The goal is to bring the Vandal in closer competition with the Phantom. We believe these weapons aren't that far off in competition and hope these changes will do that. So hopefully they're even now and we see like 50-50, who knows. Hit impact VFX update. We've made some small adjustments to hit VFX to try and improve hit registration clarity with how sensitive changes around hit registration can be. We'll be keeping an eye on player feedback on those changes and make adjustments accordingly. So they just recently released an article on hit registration for additional details, but basically they're making some updates, and this is like a ton, and I don't want to make this too long of a video, so we're gonna go ahead and skip this. The whole link will be in the description if you guys want to check it out and read it yourself. But now we're going to be talking about a competitive updates. They finally added the remake match. When a match begins with a 4v5 or more lopsided teams, players will now have the option to end the game they're in and queue for a new one. If any player is disconnected at the start of the match, beginning of the buy phase, through the entire first round, a remake call may be triggered at the start of the second round by typing /remake in chat. All connected players on the teams that called the remake may vote to remake the game. It's required that all connected players agree to remake the game, and I don't really see why that's needed, because I think only like 2 or 3 need to vote, because you have 4 people left, and I don't know why everybody would need it, because it's just going to benefit your team in the long run. Then the remake vote will last for the duration of the buy phase. If the vote is not passed by the end of the buy phase, it will just expire and you're still going to play that game. If the vote is successfully passed, the game is remade. All players who voted do not receive any XP or MMR adjustments for that match. The match will also not show up in match history. All disconnected players will not part of the vote and will take a full MMR loss for the game and receive a lever penalty equivalent to disconnecting from a full match. That one is gonna suck. If you have bad internet, you disconnect, you can't get that game back up and running. That is not gonna be good for your MMR. Now, Act Ranks visuals have been updated to better differentiate wins at a different rank tiers. They changed some potentially misleading verbiage in the restriction message for players who need to play more unrated games to unlock competitive play. This is to better reflect that Deathmatch and Spike Rush do not count towards unlocking competitive. So guys, that is all I'm going to be covering in this video. Like I said before, the rest of this link, or the whole link for the patch notes, is in the description down below. If you did enjoy this patch note, we try to do this every single time a new patch releases. That's going to be it for me today. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on so that you don't miss any content. I'm going to be updating you guys on a new schedule that I plan on starting, so check the community tab for that. But you don't need to do that if you have your notifications on. That's it for me today, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.